Hey, grandmother, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. So, grandmother, hey, so when I was a kid, you remember when you used to sit me in front of the TV of Benny Hinn. You remember that?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Why did you do that?
Why did I like to see that?
Yeah. Why did you sit me in front of Benny Hinn and always kind of like just
Because we always got blessings from it.
yeah. As a kid, I grew up in Hallville, USA, Indianapolis, Indiana, where I just grew up in the neighborhood where most of my cousins and family members either were preachers or they were selling drugs or into that particular phase. And growing up in that neighborhood, I had a choice. Either I choose God and serve God or I serve the streets.
And I'm so grateful that God put it on him to grow up to not be in the streets. People lose their child in the streets. And when he was 9 years old, I had a Bible in my front room. I kept this in my Bible and I kept saying, "Where is my Bible?" Nobody would say anything. My two girls wouldn't say nothing. He wouldn't say nothing. And I said, now I know my Bible didn't run away. All of a sudden, my Bible was in my son's room. He was reading the word, fell asleep with my Bible instead of putting it back. He always had put it back because it was always in the same spot. But one day it didn't go back where it needs to be. So I'm glad that at 9 years old, I bought him a little podium and he was preaching to his cousins, his sisters. They was playing church. They kept getting my pots and pans. They kept getting stuff to make noise with. I got frustrated. But then after a while, I just said, okay, I take that.
You heard my mother say that as a child, at 9 years old, I started reading the Bible because I was yearning. I started preaching at 10, but it wasn't at a church. It was at a prayer meeting that my mom would have at her house and friends, and they heard me playing church in the back with my best friend at the time. And one day they called me up there and they said, hey, can you come up here and preach one Sunday?
They asked him to come and speak some words, and he had over 80 people in the room. That was his first sermon that he ever preached. As he got older, he kept getting stronger. The more he kept preaching, is the more he kept teaching people how to live.
So I came up there and I preached that one Sunday. That Saturday or week, and the Lord used me prophetically and so well that the prophetic anointing was so clear over my life that it stirred up something inside of me in that particular thing. And so I am grateful for that my mother chose to keep me and her. As a child, my mother had a choice that when she had me to save herself or to save me. And I honor my mother because the Lord kept both of us. So what you'll hear my mother say, you'll hear her talk about the experience of me as a child. And it gets very emotional because my mother's here to see it. Because there was a time the doctor told us that we would not both live. But because God's miracle working power, he kept me and my mother. And she's able to testify of what God's done in my life and how proud she is. But it means so much more because God let us both see it happen together.